Good afternoon, everybody. It is AARP North Dakota's Week of Action, and as we said, today is Talk About It Thursday. State Director Josh Askvig here with you, and with me is our Advocacy Director, Janelle Most. Janelle, good to see you. After spending 2 days with you, or a day with you, I guess, at the Capitol, again, back across the screen so we can stay safe there. What happened this week at the Capitol so far?
Oh, so far, it was a busy week. All of our bills have been heard in committee so far. The priorities for us, obviously, are prescription drugs. There are 3 bills that are still alive and well in the Senate. The Senate Human Services Committee had really good conversations about the impact of those 3 prescription drug bills. And I think what we'll see next week, Monday, is some amendments that will come out on all 3 bills. But we're really hopeful and optimistic that we are going to have a bill or maybe 2 alive still in the Senate that will help lower the cost of prescription drugs.
So, Janelle, part of why we've been successful is because we have awesome advocacy volunteers. And so, what better thing to do on Talk About It Thursday than to have a special guest with us? And so, if you don't mind, let's bring in our special guest. Our special guest is an AARP North Dakota Executive Council member, and she's an advocacy all-star, not only with us, but she's been an all-star volunteer on advocacy for other organizations as well. Ellen, how are you this afternoon, Ellen?
I'm good. Thanks.
Good. So, Ellen, I'll start, and then maybe Janelle's got a question for you afterwards. But Ellen, you, as I just introduced you, you're on our executive council. You've been an advocacy volunteer for a number of years, even prior to being on the executive council. But talk a little bit about why you volunteer with AARP North Dakota and what that means to you.
Well, I'm a volunteer because I know how important advocacy work is. There's not enough of us. We always welcome more. I do it because I have experienced firsthand what it's like to talk to one of our legislators, our congressman, and tell them why a bill that they're working on is important to me. And when they understand and they say that they're with us on a bill, I know that my voice can make a difference. And if one voice can make a difference with more people joining in the fight, for example, right now, the big one is the high cost of prescription drugs. If we had more people telling their stories, maybe the legislators would say, yeah, we need to combat this issue.
And Ellen, I think Janelle's got a question for you about testifying virtually, because I know you've done some of that for us as well. So
tell us about your experience. Was it hard to do? Was it scary? Can you just give folks an idea about what to expect if they have to testify virtually?
Well, this whole COVID thing is new for all of us, and so I have never. It was the first time I even experienced Zoom, and so I was nervous. I'll admit it, and so we were having a little bit of trouble, and the head of the committee didn't have the patience to make sure that the sound with the people that were wanting to testify that day gave us enough time to even present it. Luckily, when I applied to give my testimony, my story, I had submitted both written and oral, so that even though I couldn't testify through the virtual means by the computer, that they still had my story, and that's what's the most important thing.
But I think you had better luck the second time, right, Ellen? I remember seeing your face up on the big screen in the Senate Human Services Committee. So I think the second time around, you really had it mastered, right?
Yeah, I did. That's scary seeing me on the big screen, but
we disagree. It was great seeing you.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Yeah, but by the first time I kind of learned and worked out the bugs, and they had a little trouble with the camera in the room, I guess, which is why I had the difficulty that day. But yeah, it's if anybody can master the computer, we used Zoom that day, but it's, it's pretty similar to Microsoft Teams if people have used that. So it's really a nice way to be able to sit in your home and tell them your story and not have to go to the Capitol in person.
Absolutely. And the other thing I'll just add is Doreen Redmond, who you'll all hear from tomorrow on Prevent Fraud Friday, did some great help, I think, for you and others too, Ellen. And we're always willing to help folks if they're interested in do that. So let me pitch this at you, Ellen. Like, what tips or tricks do you have for those who want to engage virtually? You mentioned submitting written testimony. You've actually testified virtually. I know you've testified in person, but right now, trying to keep people safe and making sure that we can do it. What other ways or tips or tricks do you have if folks want to reach out to their legislators on how to do so and why it's important?
It can be just as simple as sending them an email and telling them your story and why the bill is important to you. Sometimes you get a response from them. Sometimes you don't, but you appreciate when you do get the response back and their view, and how sometimes they'll even go as far to tell you how they're going to vote and why they support the vote the way they do.
Absolutely. And I guess just in closing, Ellen, Ellen, you do such a nice job, and you do such a great job, and your passion comes through. And you talked a little bit about this, but and maybe Janelle, you can add some of this too. When you do get responses from legislators, I think people are sometimes reticent, and Janelle and I certainly understand this in terms of sometimes legislators can ask tough questions or grill folks, but you as a constituent or you as an advocate, how do legislators generally respond to you or treat you when you've interacted with them?
We got the easy job. It's you folks who are the regular staff that get the tough questions. And I recall the first day of the session 2 years ago when the legislature opened, and the chairman of the committee said that the volunteers are off limits. You can't ask us any questions. So that was good. That relaxed a person's nerves quite a bit.
Well, and the reason I bring that up, and Janelle, maybe you want to jump in here too, but the reason I bring that up is they don't expect you to be experts. That's our job. That's my job. That's Janelle's job to be experts in terms of the nuance of the policy. But they do appreciate hearing, how will this impact you? Why is this important to you? And Janelle, maybe talk a little bit about what kind of response you've gotten from legislators when they've heard from volunteers.
It's been overwhelmingly positive. Ellen, you always do a nice job of keeping us informed about the work that you're doing, but by and large, legislators love to hear from constituents, either if it's in writing or a phone call or an email. They say what you all send them is important to them. They want to hear from you. They know that you're watching. They know that you're listening. And I think this legislative session has really highlighted the importance of you can be engaged in this process no matter where you're at your home, at the Capitol. It doesn't matter. But we hear every day that they want to hear the personal messages and the personal stories. They can see me and Josh every day, but hearing from you, Ellen, and how you tell your story about why this impacts you makes such a huge impact and makes our job easier. We can, look and point out the powerful stories that you share every day, and it just makes our job that much easier to push for policies that are important to you. So
you guys make it easy to do this.
Well, thank you, Ellen, and it's always a pleasure working with volunteers. Anything else, Ellen, you want to add on Talk About It Thursday about why folks should engage and raise their story and talk to their legislators?
Just because one voice makes a huge impact, and sometimes we have to speak for those who can't.
Ellen, thank you so much for taking time. I know you've had a busy day and doing this, so I really appreciate you taking a couple moments to join Janelle and I today to talk about it on Thursday. Talk About It Thursday, Week of Action. And you've done a fabulous job. If anybody's interested, find Ellen on Facebook. She's done a great job every day this week, being as have many of you watching for our Week of Action. And so do that. Ellen, you have a good rest of the day. We're going to let you get on with your day, and Janelle and I are going to wrap up with a couple of other things. So thanks, Ellen.
Thanks for asking me. Bye.
Bye-bye.
So Janelle, you talked a little bit, and there is a question in the chat that folks want to. You mentioned there's some potential amendments to some of the prescription drug bills. Maybe there's a question from one of our advocacy volunteers, Tom, in West Fargo, wanting to know what kind of amendments might be coming forward on the prescription drug bills. And maybe part of it's hard because, as you know, that we don't know necessarily yet. We know that we know the gist of them. So maybe kind of give people a rough estimate of at least where the discussion was headed as of yesterday, and then tell folks what they can do about it, because we have something they can do about it today.
You know, the discussions for the amendments, you know, Tom, you're right. You know how this process works. We haven't seen the amendments yet. We've just been part of the conversation, you know, around 2170, which is the index pricing bill. So it's not actually importing the drugs, but it's importing the prices. There's going to be just some maybe minor changes to that, maybe the number of drugs that we'll be looking at comparing the prices to us, and Canada will be a little bit different. They're really good changes. We're in conversations, and so is Senator Anderson, the prime sponsor, with the insurance department, as well as the Board of Pharmacy. They're feeling supportive of the bill, and they think it's a good step in the right direction. You know, on the flip side, with the two Canadian importation bills, which is 2212 and 2209 Senate bills, you know, there's conversations about, you know, other states. Does North Dakota want to pave the way and be one of, you know, the first 10 states to do importation? There's some concerns about whether or not Canada would be interested in looking at participating in this importation program for you with us. So there's a couple of hurdles that we're trying to overcome, but I think the conversation is still alive. There could be, you know, a study that's considered, but until Monday when we see those amendments, but we won't know exactly what the committee will be voting on. But by and large, the conversation has been positive. The Senate is really interested in looking at ways to make medication more affordable for North Dakotans. So we're hopeful that there'll be, you know, one, if not several bills still, you know, that the entire Senate can consider. And, you know, that's where you all come in. As Ellen mentioned, you know, Josh and I can be there and we can be talking to legislators, but until they hear from you and hear about why, you know, the cost of medication is so challenging for you, it just backs up what we've been telling them. So you can send an email to your senator and let them know your personal story about the high cost of prescription drugs. Send them a quick email, tell them to support Senate Bill 2170. You know, that will really start to put some pressure on the Senate, and also support the Human Services Committee that's been deep in the weeds with Josh and I about what these bills will look like and how they'll be impactful across the state. So.
Absolutely, Janelle. And for those of you who are following on the on Facebook or watching on our YouTube page, we just put a link in both places where you can click through. Janelle's set up a quick, easy link. So if you don't know who your senator is, you just fill out your information in there, and it'll identify who your senator is. You can send them a note in support of Senate Bill 2170. I think that's going to be the prime vehicle, it sounds like, and if that changes, we'll be certain to let you know. But irregardless, there's a section for you in that to tell your story. And so even if you've signed our petition that we had circulating, we still have those. We're getting ready to pass those out as well. We still would encourage you, in addition to having signed that petition, to send this note to your senators, because after the bill comes out of the Senate Human Services Committee, likely on Monday, it'll go to the Senate floor fairly quickly after that. And so it's important for your senators to be hearing from you now about supporting Senate Bill 2170 specifically, in trying to get action on that. So anything else I missed, Janelle? Anything else that you think is important to bring up on Talk About It Thursday?
No, the session is just really hitting high gear now. You know, all of the bills will be out by Monday that have appropriations associated with them, and we're still looking at, you know, all of our priorities are still alive right now, both in the House and the Senate. So just look for more updates for us. The more that your legislators hear from you, the more positive impact we're going to have across the state. So.
And you can always find good information at aarp.org/NDA team. That's for the advocacy team that Ellen is a wonderful part of. There's always updates there. We are still in the AARP North Dakota Week of Action. We've had a great week so far. Appreciated seeing all of your posts on Make Contact Monday and Wear Red Tuesday, and yesterday with We Love Caregivers Wednesday. Today's been Talk About It Thursday. Tomorrow is Prevent Fraud Friday, so be on the lookout for a note tomorrow about preventing Fraud Friday. As you know, fraud is something we work hard to combat and push back against the scammers and fraud. So looking forward to that. And then, of course, Saturday will be Send a Note Saturday. And as always, doesn't have to be week of action for you to take action and be engaged, but appreciate your work thus far. With that, Janelle, I think we can get out of here. We've had plenty to cover and covered plenty. Any last comments?
No, we love to see all of you. Keep the notes coming, keep the emails coming, and don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Well, this has been Talk About It Thursday.